My name is Vess Rusev and this is episode number 20 of the East Auckland Property Show. Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Duncan King Law Office with Kristine King, the director of the firm. So in the last 3 episodes we covered the different property titles we have in New Zealand, and today we have a very interesting topic, which is the 7 most common mistakes that people make when they're purchasing a property. So take a notepad and a pen and sit tight, so let's get into it. So what are the most common mistakes people do when they're purchasing a property? Because you see a lot of properties through the company.
I think the number one mistake, and this isn't just to make me sound popular or get people, is that people don't engage a lawyer before they commit to a purchase. So that's either signing an agreement or negotiating an agreement, or even, scarily enough, we've got a lot of people who make unconditional offers to buy a property without having even talked to a lawyer. Just, pretty scary.
Yeah. What do you think is the main reason for people not talking to a lawyer?
I think the thing is we've got to be honest here. We've got to be really honest. Lawyers have a reputation for being really expensive. You know what I mean? And I always do joke with my clients that a lot of people think lawyers are just looking at their watch all the time so they can charge you more. And guys, sorry, but I think in the past that has been true. Mm-hmm. Having said that, though, I think now our industry is starting to have a better understanding. It's a service industry. Okay. And I know there's a lot of firms like mine where for conveyancing, we want our clients to talk to us because we tend to avoid problems if you're chatting.
Yeah.
Accordingly, what we do is we actually have set fees for our sales and our purchases. And the idea is you're not clock watching, I'm not clock watching, so you're able to call me every day. And then I know for a fact you're going to be chatting to me about your circumstances, the property, what's going on in your life, and we manage to avoid problems rather than firefighting at the end. So number one, the biggest mistake, not having a lawyer.
Yeah. What's number 2?
Number 2 is really not understanding that properties can have problems, just like people. Okay. I think the thing is with property, we usually are just looking at what we see when we walk in the door. So you think, I want 3 bedrooms for me and my family. For us as lawyers, we're looking beyond that. Properties can have problems, what we call title defects. So that's actually an issue with the underlying way the title to the property, the way the property is created, hasn't been created properly, or someone has kind of fiddled with it later, and it can affect the ongoing use of the property. And I'll explain in a second, banks aren't too happy with that. Okay, but there can also be issues with the property in terms of, say, legal works. So what we call property issues, or limb issues, or property file issues. And again, these things are really important. And my main rule in life is I don't want my buyers taking on someone else's problem. Okay, so that's problem number 2.
So what's the best way to avoid number 2?
Best way is to be
number 1.
Is number 1, exactly. I think the thing is our lawyers aren't just acting in the transaction to transfer the title to you and put on a mortgage. It is actually a full service, as in we're helping you to investigate the property. So not only is it right for you, we're also making sure that it doesn't have any defects. And I guess this then pushes into my 3rd point. We need to make sure for the bank that the property is right for them. So I think the 3rd big mistake we see is people not understanding why the bank cares about your property. Okay, so if you imagine, not all of us just have all the cash sitting in our account to buy $1 million house. So you're going to borrow quite a bit from the bank, which means really the bank owns or is interested in a good portion of your property. Okay, so it's really important for them that you're not buying something that's rubbish, and that you're actually buying something that they can actually secure their mortgage against and have valid security against. Okay, so the main thing is understanding the bank does care, but also then understanding that the bank pre-approval process doesn't mean the bank has said, hey, you can buy anything up to $1 million and we don't care. Pre-approval is a process of the bank saying, hey, you earn enough money, we're happy with you borrowing up to this level. But if you actually read, usually it's the 2nd page of the pre-approval letter, there will be some bold writing warning you that the bank has to approve the property. Okay? And that's where the lawyer, your banker, and you should be working together. Like for us, we don't just give you a verbal sign-off. We actually give you a full letter explaining what you're buying in terms of the title, the LIN, the property file, everything like that, mapping out if there's any questions or concerns or any problems. So really, you can actually just forward that to your bank, and they are then usually quite happy, as long as we're happy, to sign things off.
So they pre-approve you, they don't pre-approve the property.
Exactly. So the bank's going to undertake their own due diligence, but they're going to rely on you and also our information. So, but that's how we help in terms of making the process easier. I guess mistake number 4 is what we'd like to call investigation shortcuts. So, and I think the thing is, the other sort of elephant in the room on top of legal costs is it's an expensive business buying a house. And it can be pretty demoralising, guys. You look at a house and then you're paying for builder's inspection or meth testing or evaluation, and then you don't end up getting it. It is expensive. So sometimes the temptation is to rush that part and think it's fine.
Yeah.
Having said that though, and I'll tell you a great story about a client who didn't get a LIM. The bank then got the LIM for them and found a massive problem and actually took back the settlement funds on settlement day. And hey, this client did not have $600,000 just sitting in their bank account, and we had to do a lot of work to fix it. So guys, no matter what, because you could possibly be making, let's say, $1 million mistake, $500 on evaluation or $400 on a LIM, it still seems pretty cheap. So as much as possible, don't take shortcuts. Moving on, the 5th biggest mistake I find is people not understanding insurance requirements. Okay, so probably need to backtrack a little bit just to make sure everybody understands what I'm talking about with insurance. So you actually have to have insurance for the house, for the structure, to enable you to draw down your lending. The reason being is the bank wants to know if the house burns down that there's enough insurance there to cover their mortgage and then allow perhaps a rebuild or a new property to
this in case if you borrow money, right?
Indeed.
For a cash buyer.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Insurance companies these days, they used to be pretty casual. They just used to say, you know, how big is the house? But since the Christchurch earthquake, we were actually really concerned about making sure the house is what the insurance company thinks it is. Okay. And it is actually built into all our policies that they don't cover certain things, including illegal or unconsented works. So if you can imagine now, the insurance vetting process before they actually give you a policy is a lot stricter. And the banks care as well, because if you can't get insurance or perhaps get an insurance that is limited because it's excluding a lot of stuff, it may be then affecting the bank's ability to recoup their money if something goes wrong. Okay, so insurance is really important. Don't overlook it and don't leave it to the last second. I actually say to my clients, we should be investigating insurance during your due diligence. So you're interested in a property, ring your insurer, tell them the address, how big it is. It might be that they say we need a gas certificate or a wiring certificate. And you can actually use that time during your due diligence when your vendor's really working hard to get you over the line to get the things that your insurance company needs. Okay, because we don't want you running around on settlement day trying to get an electrical certificate, because otherwise we can't draw down your lending. So insurance is a big one that everyone overlooks. Next one is all about timing. I think the thing is, everybody often feels under pressure when it comes to a purchase. You know, we're often nervous, we haven't done it before, and I think we forget to take a deep breath and kind of calm down and think about really what's going on in our life and making sure that our timing works out well. I mean, a classic example is, how much notice do you need to give your landlord before you can move out? I mean, guys, I'd hate to put you in a position that you've got to pay mortgage and pay rent. Wouldn't be good. So timing is really important, but also timing of other things, like how long does it take your bank to produce loan documents? So therefore, how much time do we need between unconditional and settlement? I mean, we can settle quite quickly these days, but there's a lot of other players working with us at the same time. So it's a lot better, and this is a really great piece of advice, is if you come and see your lawyer nice and early. We've gone through this thousands of times, okay? And our job is actually to help you through this process. If you can sit with us even before you start looking and tell us what's going on in your life. Do you need a loan from mum and dad? Do you need lending from the bank? Do you need KiwiSaver? You know, and we can actually map out all your requirements, then make sure that your agreement for sale and purchase tags in and fits in with what you're trying to do. And I guess that leads me on to my final point in terms of my, the top 7. When in talking about agreements for sale and purchase and making sure they fit your requirements, we actually do like to be involved before you sign. Okay, I've mentioned timing is quite important. I want to make sure that we have the ability to pay the deposit when it's due. What does that really mean? Okay, when is settlement date? All of these great things, because sometimes agreements for sale and purchase are drafted on the weekends, at night. Everybody's super excited. They all want a deal, and sometimes in an environment where people are super excited, we can get typos and mistakes. They can be things with dates, or sometimes we see clauses that perhaps really aren't what you want as a buyer. I think a classic one...
Yeah, we call them the weekend clause.
The weekend clauses, exactly. A classic example is people putting solicitor approval clauses into agreements for sale and purchase. That allows me to check the standard terms, but it doesn't allow me to check if the property is right for you. That's actually a different type of clause, a due diligence clause. I know you know that. And we've had clients just put a solicitor approval clause in to find that on the face of it, because I couldn't find anything wrong with the agreement itself, though there was something wrong with the building, we didn't even have the ability to cancel. So my main thing, and this is why you'll see my emails on my cards, my cell phone's on my cards, I have no objection to clients, texting and then emailing me the agreement before signing at nights or weekends or public holidays. The main thing is, my commitment as a lawyer is to you as a purchaser. I want to make sure you buy the right thing, and if it means I have to do a little bit extra for you, well, I think it's worth it. So hopefully that covers off the top 7 mistakes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome, yeah. So if you have any questions or anything that you would like us to cover, especially with regards to purchasing a property, just leave them in the comments below, and I'll make sure we're going to cover them in one of the next episodes.
Yep, and just one quick final word. Every piece of information I present during these amazing sessions with you is for sort of general informative educational purposes, and we do recommend you always take your own legal advice.
Awesome. Thank you. So next time we're going to cover the most common mistakes we see when selling a property. This is a very interesting topic. So stay tuned, and thanks for the time, and thank you, Kristine. See you next time. Thank you.